The No Fate channel checking in with the second episode of Dad's Desktop. In this episode, I'll be dusting off my 12-year-old engineering degree and attempting to upgrade this 2010 desktop. Stay tuned to see if I'm successful or just successful in breaking it. On the first episode of Dad's Desktop, we proved that a few simple steps can boost performance on a lagging PC. Unfortunately, this computer's been running 2017 video editing software on 2010 technology. It's just not cutting it. So on today's episode of Dad's Desktop, we're going to dust off my 12-year-old engineering degree and try to give this computer an upgrade by installing a few key hardware components. The most important piece of hardware we're going to replace is the video card. This computer came with a half gigabyte video card that was okay for 2010 and greatly underperforming now in 2017. So for $60, we got a GT730, 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM on board, and when I compared it on GPU Boss, we went from a score of 4.4 to 7.1. So we should see a huge bump in performance, even though this is not even close to top of the line for video cards. The next major piece of equipment we're going to replace is the processor. This computer came with an AMD Phenom quad-core 910, a good, fast, and energy efficient processor that has given us over 7 years of reliability. We are going to replace it with a used, older AMD Phenom 965. Now, we got this for $49 on Amazon used, and we should see a good bump in performance. The only caveat is it will take more energy and it will generate more heat. To combat the increased heat from the new processing unit, and because we're going to be taking out the old stock fan anyway to get to the processing unit, we'll be placing in a new Coolmaster Hyper Fan. This cost $30 new. I got this off of Amazon, and it should have better airflow than the stock fan that came with this thing back in 2010. Because the new processor and graphics card will be drawing more power than the existing ones, the 300 watt power supply unit that's 7.5 years old is probably not going to cut it. So the last piece of hardware we're going to be replacing is the power supply unit. We got this cheap $21 450 watt power supply unit, and even though it's by no means top of the line, it should do the trick. I'll be completely honest, I'm a little bit nervous I'm going to brick my computer, so I did back up all my important files and programs. I've never done an upgrade on a desktop before, so this is either going to be a banner day or a black eye for the UMass engineering program.
Breakfast, you're my coffee and my cream. Oh, yeah, you're my breakfast, you're my coffee and my cream.
My engineering degree is certainly suspect because the computer upgrade went off the rails right from the start. The CPU fan that I purchased not only was too big for the case itself, it required that I remove the whole motherboard to properly install it, something I just wasn't willing to do. So I returned it and I got a smaller but still more effective CPU fan than the one that came with the computer. Also, in hopes of keeping the case cool and prevent heat buildup on the CPU, I got a better and improved exhaust fan. When it was all said and done, I spent $164 in computer parts, and I did see a noticeable improvement across the 3 different benchmarks that we ran. For the processor, the lowest of those benchmarks showed a 20% improvement, with the highest showing 30%. The major bump was in the graphics card. That showed a 200% improvement, which is astounding for the $60 investment of just the graphics card. I upgraded my desktop because I wanted the experience and satisfaction of doing it myself. But the number one takeaway from today's episode is not to try this at home. Buying a new computer is so inexpensive if you go to a box store and you're not looking for anything really top of the line for editing 4K video and stuff like that. It's really affordable. Also, the time invested with finding out which components go with your desktop and buying them and installing them and making sure they all fit is just not worth it. If you've already done all the steps from the first episode of Dad's Desktop and your computer is still sluggish, I would probably recommend to go to a box store or online and get yourself a new computer. The only reason you would want to upgrade your desktop yourself is if you've had prior experience with upgrading computers and you know what you're doing, and or more importantly, you want to save a ton of money. Because if you know what you're doing and you're willing to buy used components, you can definitely save a good amount of money on upgrades. Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that subscribe button. And as usual, don't save anything for the trip back.